Welcome, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. My name is Andrew Valentin, and I hope you're all having a magical Monday. We are coming to you live here from the O'Hare campus of the Illinois Media School. I hope everyone, again, having a great day. Fall is here. You can feel it in the air. It's a little bit nippy out there. It's a little apparently cold in here. I don't know what people are talking about, but thank you for that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I hope everyone out there is having a great time. We've got a lot to talk about. We're getting deep diving into football today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see us anymore, of course, we're always going live here on YouTube and on Twitch. That's youtube.com/XBombSports. That's twitch.tv/XBombSports. You can follow us on the social media side at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at XBombSports on those as well. If you guys want to check us out anymore, too, for any questions or comments as well, please hit us up at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com. We want to hear from you guys as always. And we're going to start with this one off, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, we're going to kick right into it. We've got the NFL we got to talk about, yes, because another week has come and gone, or almost at least, because we do have the Monday night game tonight. But before we get to that, well, actually, we won't be getting to that. But I wanted to recap what kind of happened on this week, and let's just kind of jump right into it, shall we? So, first thing we got to talk about is obviously the Chicago Bears. Oh, baby, Chicago, what could we do? My goodness. If you did not see the game, they took on the Arizona Cardinals. They were in Arizona. Obviously, a lot of people were certainly interested to see how it would play out because Arizona has kind of been very up and down for the year, of course. Meanwhile, you have the Bears who have certainly kind of looked rough at times, but overall, for the most part, they have been in a pretty good position. They've been fairly successful. They've had their opportunities. But this was an odd one. This was one that definitely felt just as strange as the last game against Washington, right? Bears losing 29-9, pretty big blowout, 20 points. It never felt like it was very close. It never felt like the Bears were actually in this game, and for a lot of that, you kind of wonder, well, where do you turn to, and what was the issue, and where's the problem lie with this? And it seems to be that maybe it's just me, but the issue seems to be lying with, well, something's up with Chicago, right? Something's got to be up there. I watched that game back. I watched the highlights, and like many people, after the game, there was a lot of questions that left me bewildered as far as, well, the decision-making points as far as the coaching staff, I think, is now being called into question, right? I was already very critical of the Matt Eberflus hire when it first went down. There was a lot of people that said, well, let's wait. I said, no, this is a clone of Lovie Smith. And I know Lovie had success with the Bears, but that was a completely different era when defense and running the football actually meant something. This is a time period where quarterbacks throwing the football actually are a big part of the game plan. Now, I know this year has not been a great year for quarterbacks, but still, you're looking at this team and you're going, well, you got the receivers finally. You got the quarterback, it looks like. The questions are on the offensive line, obviously, and whether or not, the coaching staff is a capable one to help this team advance further. And part of the big issue, I think, right now that sits with them is that Shane Waldron, who was supposed to be kind of the godsend, right? He was this guy that did a lot of great things with Geno Smith, who had a very good offense around him. He ended up having some really good seasons with Waldron, but obviously it kind of tapered off at the end there. Nevertheless, Waldron's a young offensive coordinator. He's innovative. He seems to have that offense that fits Caleb Williams. So the idea was, hey, you're bringing in a guy that's going to be able to help grow the quarterback and help build on what he's done so far in college, and progression will be had. But there's a lot of questions that are now coming up about culture and identity, and if coaching is in proper order, is anybody really in command of this thing? Because Matt Eberflus does still come off as like a Lovie Smith type of guy. Not, again, he didn't learn under Lovie Smith, but when I say a Lovie Smith type of guy, I mean he doesn't seem to be very boastful. He seems very quiet. He seems like he's a very silent type. He doesn't want to kind of stir the pot, I guess, if you will, which I get it. Like, you don't want to be the controversial guy. You don't want to be the guy that ruffles feathers, per se. But I think at some point, I don't know, at some point I feel like you have to make some sort of attempt to kind of strong arm your team a little bit. And obviously, look, they had made the decision to bench Tyreek Stevenson, right? He was going to be demoted because of his actions in the Washington game, which I get, I understand. But this is also something where it's like, okay, but Kyler Gordon's not playing. If Kyler Gordon's playing, I would understand the demotion. You're going to demote him when your number 3 corner is out, who could be a serviceable guy as a number 2. So now, more than ever, you really need Tyreek Stevenson to be in that game. It just there's a lot of big questions that are being raised, I think, right now for Matt Eberflus, for Shane Waldron, for the Bears. And look, I think rightfully so. You know, it should be noted that there has been some success on this team, of course, but to the extent of, oh, the Bears are showing incredible progress. Wow, they're advancing to that next level. They're really going to break big and all that. That doesn't seem to be happening, and that's okay. That's okay. Like, this is going to take some time. This is not a rush job. You know, to think that this was going to ever be a 100-meter yard dash is insane. This is a marathon. This is going to take a little bit of, you know, easing into things, getting prepared, getting ready, being on that level of like, okay, are we good to go? You wonder. You do wonder now. Like, where are they at this point? Honestly, I think they're right on schedule with what I was saying, which was another 7-10 season, which again, I don't think is a bad thing, but more has to be seen from the offense in order for this season to be called some sort of a win. And that's part of the problem, is that you're not seeing those efforts being made. It's a struggle. It's a hard struggle right now for that team as far as getting themselves from point A to point B. You got to be able to get there at some point. But the question is, again, do you have the individuals that are going to help you get there? I think Caleb is the right guy for the Bears. I do think that Rome Odunze was a solid pick for them. He had a solid game here against the Cardinals, right? Showed more of his stuff. Looked like that pick that you wanted in the 9th overall. You've got Moore, you've got Allen, you've got Kmet, you've got all these pieces, right? Swift and Johnson and all these guys. Comes down to, though, I mean, where are we at as far as that whole play out? Where are we at as far as like where you want to be able to stretch to? I'm a little unsure. I'm not so certain about these guys as far as being the leaders, being the coaches, being the guys in charge. I don't know if you can trust them. I really don't know if you can trust them. And look, at the end of the day, this is all going to fall on Matt Eberflus's shoulders as the head coach, which in turn is going to fall on the shoulders of Ryan Poles. And whether he wanted to hire Eberflus or not, that's going to remain to be, doesn't matter at this point, because it's going to come down to, well, but you were the GM in charge. It stinks. Like, it right now does not look good. And certainly I think there's a lot of the team that's calling into question if I think they have the right guy at the helm. Hopefully Ryan Poles can go and find the right guy if this is not it. And I don't think this is it. I don't know who's the right decision maker for this team. Maybe it's Ben Johnson. Maybe it's somebody else out there that has yet to be proven. I feel like it has to be somebody who's more offensive oriented, because this defense first type of mentality, whilst I understand defense is commanding right now, your future is in your quarterback. Your future's in the offense being a better team. And that's going to get you the wins. That's what wins you football games nowadays. Defense used to win championships. It really just gave you a chance, and your offense has to score points. Bears got to be better. That's the bottom line. If they're not better, Flus, Waldron, They'll be out of a job before Waldron even has had a chance to probably unpack, and before Flus could actually even say, like, yeah, we're doing a really good job. Out. Probably going to be out soon. All right, let's move into the next one, because outside of the Bears, obviously there were other teams that I wanted to look at. And I wanted to take a look at the Rams because, L.A. is a wonderful city at times. It's beautiful. It's everything. It's got luxury, famous people walking all over the place, right? It's great. The Rams have been successful there. They've won a Super Bowl. They're now kind of entering that stage, though, where post-Super Bowl, all the missing draft picks that they used to be able to have, that they've traded away for better talent, are kind of now like needs, right? Like Les Snead as a general manager, I'm sure, is looking at his team going, man, if only I had a few more guys that were younger and a little bit more energized. Because I want to be honest, watching that game against the Seahawks, I thought the Rams looked exhausted. I thought they looked tired. Matthew Stafford's, 35, 36? Maybe going to be 37? I believe Cooper Kupp is 31, 32. Like, look, I'm tired already as it is, but I haven't played a full football game in years. Okay? Those guys looked like they were huffing and puffing. They did a good job. They stayed on their toes and they made plays. But they look like an older team. They look like they're aging out. They look like a team that needs a little bit of a rebuff in the youth, right? It's one of the things that I've kind of been told in my life when I was younger by some older people. They're like, the reason why I keep you around? Because you make me feel young, right? Like I'm that little ball of energy they can kind of go to and be like, let me get a little bit of that, That was when I was younger. Now I do that with a lot of other individuals too. Scotty's not here, but I do that with Scotty. Scotty annoys the hell out of me, but the reason I keep Scotty around, he gives me a little bit of a zap. He's like coffee, It's not always what I need, but he's kind of the necessary kind of jolt that sometimes I do need to get myself started. For better, for worse. I love you, buddy. But that's the problem with the Rams. The Rams are an older, aging team that, quite frankly, a lot of their pieces right now are going to be guys that are going to start thinking about retirement. And when you have a guy like Cooper Kupp, who's probably at his all-time highest value right now, and the deadline is coming up here very soon, like in a couple days, you may want to consider moving on from him when you can get a couple of first-round, at least a first-round pick, I think, for him. If anything, you might be able to get a couple seconds for him, something that can help another team get better whilst you can start your rebuild. Because the problem is, it feels like the Rams are going to go and just be an average football team, a 9-8, 8-9 football team. Maybe they just make the playoffs as a wild card, but ultimately in the wild card, they're going to lose the game probably. I don't think they're going very far. I don't think they have the energy for it. Quite frankly, I don't even know if their bodies are going to hold up to that point. There's a lot of discussion as far as if the Rams should hit the reboot button, hit the rebuild button, or if they should hit the let's go in it to win it kind of thing. Because we all know Sean McVay wants to win it. And I think we all know that Kupp and Stafford and all these older guys, they want to win another one too. But they just keep looking like an old, tired team. There's just times where it doesn't look like it. Now, Jared Verse has been great for them. They have found younger players that have certainly interjected themselves. So, Kyron Williams has been great for them. But it just feels like they need more. They need to consider the possibility of where they're going. Are they going to win the division? Can they win the division? Maybe. I mean, if it's going to happen, this is going to be the year. But this is the thing. It's a huge win or lose situation, because if you win the division, you better be able to make sure you can make a strong playoff run to maybe get to the Super Bowl. Because if you lose, you may have to consider the possibility that you need to find another quarterback if Matthew Stafford calls it a career. And if Cooper Kupp decides to say, I think I'm going to move on. Because he's a guy who's talked about, hey, I've got a lot of tread on my tires. I played a lot of football over my years from being a kid to being an NFL pro. I don't know how much longer I'll have left. These are all things you have to take into consideration. If I'm the Rams, I don't know. Maybe I pull the trigger. Maybe I hit the button on rebooting it. Try it again. Because I think Sean McVay could find guys diamonds in the rough. And he's not going anywhere. He's young enough as a head coach that he'll be around for a long time still. Guy's still in his 30s, for crying out loud. So I fully expect the Rams to probably go for it because that's kind of their MO at this point. But I would advise them to maybe consider hitting that button, trying to say, let's go for the rebuild. Let's try again. We're going to have a long time of doing this. They're not going anywhere. So see what happens. Rams, it's a good win. Just can they take it going forward? Who knows? All right. Next I wanted to hit was the news that's broken out of New Orleans. Didn't get a chance to put it up there, but if you don't know, the New Orleans Saints hit a new low. They dropped their 7th straight loss. This one coming to the lowly Carolina Panthers by 1 point. They outgained them every single yard, and yet they still lost. And now we know this morning the Saints met with head coach Dennis Allen, and Dennis Allen has officially been fired. That's happened. Now, Rizzi, who is an assistant, will be taking over as the new head coach, interim head coach, which means that the Saints will now put themselves in position to go find the next head coach for New Orleans. But man, oh man, I have a gut feeling that the Saints are going to possibly screw this up again. Look, I get it. Dennis Allen was a well-respected coordinator when he was in Denver helping that team and their defense. Went to Oakland. He was young in Oakland. He didn't have a great team in Oakland. They were bad. And he then and he was in an impossible situation because he had to take over for a team that had traded a bunch of draft picks for Carson Palmer at the time, who did not want to be in Oakland. He was hurting. He didn't play well then either. So he was already behind the 8 ball as it was. Now he comes into New Orleans, helps the defense look so incredible. They look so much better. They look awesome. When Sean Payton leaves, his recommendation is Dennis Allen should be the head coach. Dennis Allen's the head coach. Pete Carmichael's still there as the OC. Well, that's not working anymore because Pete Carmichael only really worked with Drew Brees, and that was even towards the end that was getting tired. Clint Kubiak is the son of Gary Kubiak. He's got a great offensive mind just like his father did. But ultimately, there's limited resources to work with in New Orleans outside of Olave and Kamara. You would think that'd be enough. They still have players, don't get me wrong, but they're not executing the way that they should be. So of course Dennis Allen's going to get fired. When you've dropped 7 straight games and the last one is to your divisional rivals that are one of the most pathetic teams in the NFL, of course this is going to happen. That's a bad look for the Saints, but it's a bad look because they put themselves in this situation in the first place. You could have hired anybody else. You could have gone outside of the norm of hiring internally because that's usually what they've done other than Sean Payton, right? It was always kind of promote from within for the most part. But this is one where I think you have to go outside the box. You have to go get that guy. Nothing about the Saints right now reads to the level of success from past or present. They don't, other than Alvin Kamara, what has been the best part of that team? Maybe Marshawn Lattimore, but he's now getting exhausted with this. Cameron Jordan is like, I'm so sorry, New Orleans. You guys deserve better. Like, he put that out in a tweet. Derek Carr was getting blasted by Michael Thomas, former Saint, who's, nobody wants right now. And he was just like, yeah, well, that's Mike's opinion. That's a great way to take it. Derek Carr, I still think, is a pretty decent quarterback. I don't think he's great. I don't even think he's good at this point. He's probably just decent, but you can do something with him. I just don't know if Dennis Allen ever brought anything to the table for the Saints to be able to say, what can we use? Who are we? Coaches are expected, we just talked about this with Eberflus. You're expected to bring an identity, a culture to the team. That's what coaches are expected to do. GMs sometimes can do it, but head coaches more times often than not are supposed to set the tone of what the team is supposed to be. Dennis Allen never did that, which now leads me to believe, like, hey, look, maybe this guy just isn't cut out to be a head coach. When you fail once, I will give you the break. Okay, you failed there. Maybe it was the wrong place. Maybe you didn't have the experience. Maybe you were prepared. There's a lot of different factors. The team could have been bad, whatever. By the second time, if you don't get it right, maybe you need to consider not being a head coach. If you don't get it right by a third time, though, that's when teams need to say, not him. Right? Not him. If you're not winning consistently, if you're not getting that, it's the energy that I saw a lot of people put out for Jeff Fisher a lot of times, right? Jeff Fisher always was able to find ways to get a winning record out there, and people would say, got to give him a chance, give him a chance, give him a chance. At some point, though, you got to say, not him. Too many chances, right? Too many chances. The Saints have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of salary cap they have to figure out. Their team right now is kind of in a disgruntled place where they're, I think, angry with the results of what's been happening. The outcry was obvious from the fan bases. They wanted Dennis Allen gone. He's now been fired. Can this new coach step in and possibly, refurbish this whole franchise? Who knows? Who knows? There's a lot to be discussed there for sure. And finally, I wanted to get up north into the Buffalo area because, Buffalo played against Miami, and this was a big game, right? Because Miami was at full strength. Everybody's supposed to be healthy for the most part, outside of a few pieces on the defensive side that are just out for the season, right? Jalen Phillips and a few others. This was supposed to be like the big game for Miami to be able to make a statement, right? And for a moment there, it looked like the Dolphins had it. But Buffalo did what they do best, which is put the ball in the hands of your best player, Josh Allen, and let him go to work. And boy, did he. Right? An incredible touchdown as he was falling down. The guy was on point with slinging it to his guy. His top receiver was Ray Davis, the backup running back, for crying out loud, which just speaks volumes about exactly how good this Buffalo Bills team is, considering that for a while there was a lot of questions if this team was going to win the division or not. Everybody gave it to the Jets. Some people gave it to the Dolphins. But I was still one who said, no, Buffalo can still do it. But they lost Stephon Diggs, Micah Hyde, Pryor. Yes, they lost a lot. But they still have the quarterback. They still have the quarterback. And Josh Allen makes a big difference on that offense. You can see it. Khalil Shakir, he's probably just an average wide receiver, but he's performing. Keon Coleman, he's making plays on first down when he needs to. Big, tall wide receiver, get the first down. Simple as that. Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, right? Ray Davis, Cook, you name it, guys are stepping up for that team. It's a big part of why I think the Buffalo Bills are one of the best teams in the NFL. Why they should be lauded as it. And why Josh Allen should be at least in the MVP conversation. I know people are going to say Lamar. I agree that Lamar's success with Baltimore has certainly been a driving force that should put him at the front of being the MVP for back-to-backs, right? But I would contend to say that Josh Allen's games thus far with Buffalo have been just as impressive, if not sometimes even more so, because he is actually working with less by the account of guys that are inexperienced, young guys who have limited time playing with him, and he's making them look magical, right? He's doing incredible things. So I understand where you would say, well, Lamar should be the MVP. I get it. I do. That guy is still playing as one of the best quarterbacks, and he is marching his way to the MVP again. But who do I think is going to be the best quarterback in the NFL right now when it's all said and done? I think it's going to be Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen has enough momentum here to carry the Bills into the postseason and possibly get them to the AFC Championship. If anything, maybe even get them to a Super Bowl. Now, you still got to go through Kansas City. Obviously, Baltimore, maybe Cincinnati will still be there. Who knows at this point? There's going to be a tough road still ahead, right? Pittsburgh will be probably in that fight. But Buffalo feels like they have like that magic, and the magic is being provided by the quarterback. And if you have the quarterback to get it done, I promise you, you can reach your ultimate limits. You can reach the pinnacle of a Super Bowl. Josh Allen gives them that ability. I would fully expect him to be able to keep playing the way he does. If he falls off, the fact is he's got enough of a buffer zone right now where that might not even hurt this team, and they could still end up winning, and he could find a way to bounce back later and get back into his winning ways personally, throwing touchdowns, he's not even running the ball as much. But he's now winning with his arm. Imagine if he can get his legs going again too. But thankfully he's not, so he doesn't have to get hurt. That's what's great about watching the Bills right now. They look like a very complete team, despite the fact that when you look at them on paper, they look very average. But he makes them superior. Credit goes to the Bills. Big win against Miami. Big victory for the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. I fully expect them. I will predict them to be possibly right there for the AFC Championship. I don't know if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year. Just going to throw that out there. This may be the guy. This may finally be the Josh Allen that does it, that crosses the line, that gets them to the mountaintop. We'll find out. Between him and Lamar, one of those two guys feels like right now momentum is on their side to get these teams to the mountaintop. Bills or Ravens, someone's doing it. I'm pushing Bills. We'll see. That's going to do it for the NFL talk here, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, let us know, what do you think about this stuff? Give us your thoughts on the Bears, the Rams, the Saints, and the Buffalo Bills. Let us know what you think about the NFL week as a whole. We want to hear from you guys. As always, hit us up here on the Twitch, on the YouTube. Hit us up at the social medias at XBomb Sports, and, of course, xbsportsofficial@gmail.com for the emails as well. When we come back, though, folks, we got college football to talk. It was a wild mayhem week, and we're going to be discussing all of that here on the XBomb Sports Live Show.
Man, I'm so hungry. I need somewhere to eat fast. I have no idea where to go.
Psst. Hola, me llamo El Taco de Taco. You know where to go for the amazing taste that'll have you craving more? Taco Bell.
All right, can I get 20 tacos, please?
You got it.
Thanks, Taco.
De nada.
Good. That's it. Eat the tacos.
Taco Bell. Live más.
Wear your best attitude. Feel the power. Run towards your goals. Make each footprint count. Believe in yourself. Mark the difference. Just do it.
Celsius, the fastest growing energy drink in America. 0 sugar, low calories, and 200 milligrams of caffeine. Celsius is the ideal drink for anyone who wants to get the most out of their day. 4 distinct flavors: orange, kiwi guava, wild berry, white peach. Drinking Celsius prior to fitness activities has proven to accelerate your metabolism, burn body fat, and provide essential energy. Celsius. Live fit. The official drink of Chad Podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, here to the XBomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. We just got done talking about the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. If you, again, have anything to say on that, Hit us up on all the social media, on the streaming sites, and, of course, at the email as well. Outside of the NFL, folks, we had college football on Saturday, and my goodness, did we have some barn burner of games to look at. Specifically, there were a couple teams that I'm going to discuss here for the most part in terms of like the good, the bad, and maybe the downright ugly, right? So let's start with some of the good, right? First one is the big game. Noon kickoff, Ohio State took on Penn State. They win 20-13. And I've watched Ohio State's highlights from that game. And David might be able to hear me through the wall here, I don't know. And we'll probably discuss about it on Below the Whistle, which will be coming up at about 1:30 here, give or take, on sportstownchicago.com, so be on the lookout for that. But I watched the highlights of that game back, and here's what I'm going to tell everybody. I understand that you would look at that game, look at the record, the score, right? And you would say, well, Ohio State, they can't be that really good. They only won by 7. I, however, watched the highlights, and I got to be honest, I felt like from beginning to end, Ohio State had that game pretty much at hand. It was close at one point, but it never felt like it was really that close, I got to be honest with you. A lot of that, I think, has to do with the fact that Ohio State has been executing very well offensively. Yes, they've made mistakes. Will Howard's not perfect, but he's just good enough to be able to make enough plays down the field that Ohio State can be in great position to be able to score and be able to win ball games. They have maybe the best wide receiver that everybody should know about in Jeremiah Smith, the guy who is next up by my account. Carnell Tate was non-factor. Emeka Egbuka was able to make a play in there. He'll be a first-round pick. Brandon Enos, who's a guy that I think is very special, showed his stuff and scored a touchdown in there. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson ran the ball well. And Ohio State's defense dismantled everything that Penn State really tried to do for the most part. The problem I saw in this game really stemmed from the fact that Ohio State proved why it's one of the best rosters in college football. Meanwhile, on the Penn State side, the problem that I'm seeing with that team is that the offense feels like it's an octagon-shaped peg that you're trying to fit into a circle hole, right? It'll fit, but it's not going to fit as perfectly as you would like it to. That's no fault, I think, of Drew Aller or the offensive coordinator. That's just this is the first year with each other, and they're trying to figure this out. But by this point now, against a team like Ohio State, you really can't take baby steps. You've got to start taking big, long strides. And that's what I see as part of the problem here. I watched back on a lot of the highlight stuff from Ohio State and Penn State leading up to this game. And there were times where Penn State was looking like they were a machine. They were on point. They were doing their stuff. But a lot of times it was there because they were setting up the run. They were doing the classic thing that they've done in the past, right? Have a strong ground game established, then allowing their defense to basically go hunt the other team's offense. And eventually Drew Aller would get into a rhythm and would be able to start firing off passes and at least be able to move the ball down the field and get them in scoring position. Made total sense. Aller never got into rhythm here. And in sports, it's important to get into rhythm, right? It's important, especially at quarterback, to get into a rhythm. Because once you do, you start feeling good, you feel yourself, and now all of a sudden you can start making more plays. You have more confidence. Aller never felt like he ever got into that stride. Howard did. Will Howard felt like he got into a rhythm. He felt comfortable, right? He didn't feel like he got disturbed at all. Aller, on the other hand, he looked like he was a little bit perplexed. He looked like he was a little bit out of his element. Could it have been that he was hurt? Certainly. He was coming off an injury. He said he was going to play. Maybe he shouldn't have. Maybe Bo Prubella would have been the better option. Perhaps. Also to note here, too, had this game been a night game, 6:30 call time, at a whiteout game against Ohio State in Beaver Stadium, 6:30 at night, whiteout game, Ohio State probably struggles a little bit more because that's a hard atmosphere to play in. It's the same thing as LSU at night. It's the same thing as, going to, Kyle Field or anything like that, going to Autzen Stadium in Oregon. It's hard to play in those places because the fans are right on top of you, the big house, all of that stuff. It's not easy. At night, whiteout, that would have probably been a tougher place to play than a noon kickoff where Aller's not had a lot of time to really recoup. Everybody's a little bit groggy and tired, so not everybody's maybe 100% by the time they get in the game, and about halfway through, finally everyone's like, oh, I got my juice now. It's a little bit too late. So while the score doesn't reflect it, I felt like Ohio State really showed dominance in this game. You can argue against it, and that's totally fine. Maybe I'm coming off on this on the wrong way. But from beginning to end, I felt like Ohio State had this one still in hand. Had it been a night game, a little bit different. I still would have given Ohio State the 3 points that I gave them last week. But in this case, I would have still said it's a harder place to play at night during that game than if it was a big noon kickoff, just another game in the middle of the day to start off the week. It doesn't have the same vibe. It doesn't have the same energy. So who knows what would have happened in that case. But Ohio State, I think, still proved that they are one of the top dogs in the country after that win. There's a lot still to do for them, but that was a big win for them for sure. Outside of the good, there was a little bit of ugly. Ugly. I'll say ugly. It was an ugly win for Georgia, right? Georgia wins it against Florida, 34-20. They blow them out towards the end. But the whole time I watched that game, I'm looking at Carson Beck, the quarterback, the guy that was at one point projected to be the number 1 overall pick, maybe like the next coming of Matthew Stafford by some people's account. And I watched him play against Florida, and then I watched his old highlights back over the last few weeks, and I went, something's wrong with this guy. He's not seeing the DBs. He's not noticing tendencies. He's not reading the defense. He's just chucking it. Something's up with him. And then I came to realize that this game is really the reason why Georgia's winning the way that they are. It's really because of Kirby Smart. He is the biggest factor as to why Georgia's winning football games. There's no player that's separating this team really in any regard. This, I think, is coming down to head coach is smarter than most others. He knows how the SEC works. He understands how Florida works. Too many times has he seen him as a Bama guy. Now he's seen him too many times as a Georgia guy, so he knows exactly how to set it up. Boom, boom, boom. That's how we attack them. They have no energy left. They've got nothing left in the tank. Takes the air out of their sails. We win the game. It was an ugly win through and through. Is this a Georgia team that can win the national championship? Obviously, I think they are. But it also kind of depends, too, because if Carson Beck doesn't play better, I don't know if Georgia's going to have that opportunity because you need that kid. You need that kid to be on his best. You can run the ball against everybody, of course, sure. Sure you can. But there are other teams out there with quarterbacks that are better than you, right? That are better than you skill-wise and talent-wise, and maybe even on the mental aspect as well too. That I think they can beat them. I think if you talked about Georgia playing Miami right now, it'd be a close one. It'd be a close one. That defense for Georgia is fantastic, of course. But I don't know. Miami has the quarterback, right? Alabama, Georgia, rivalry match. Could Georgia pull it off? Maybe. Jalen Milroe's an athlete. They did it before. They beat him before, right? But who's to say? Georgia's got the head coach to get it done. He's got the game plan. He has the players in place to be able to help this team get to the college football playoff and possibly win another national championship. But they have limitations on their offense that are starting to become an anchor for them at times, where their defense now needs to start stepping up, and they're relying on guys to start showing flashes sooner than I think they would rather have. So it now falls to Kirby Smart and his coaching staff to game plan perfectly so that they can minimize mistakes, attack weaknesses against the opposing team in order to better their chances instead of being able to say, we will overpower everybody, doesn't matter what your game plan is, we'll find a way to dominate you. Now they have to be far more meticulous. And you should be that way no matter what. But in those early points when Georgia was winning those championships with Stetson Bennett, you could see there was a level of dominance that Georgia had over their opponents every single time, where they could just go in and stomp you into the mud. This is not a stomp you into the mud Georgia team, I think. They are far more meticulous, breed it by the book kind of offense right now, where they kind of have to pick and poke and cut, death by 1,000 cuts type of situation. They can't just go in and just go hammer, 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 beat you in all in the face. Not going to happen. But outside of that, you've got kind of a question mark, I would say, in college football too. I just mentioned them. Miami. What are they? Is Miami a national championship contending team? I think they are. And I think they are primarily because of one reason, Cameron Ward. He's the best quarterback in college football. I know you want to say Shedeur. You can make that argument. But Cam Ward is doing things in Miami we haven't seen before. Vinny Testaverde was never this good. Steve Walsh was never this good. Maybe Bernie Kosar, maybe the closest guy. Ken Dorsey was never this good. This kid is something special. Miami's never had a quarterback taken with the number 1 overall pick since Testaverde. That's true. This guy could be it. This guy could be the real deal. He has the arm, the accuracy, the footwork, the agility, presence of mind. Everything about him is perfect as a quarterback, and it's now leading me to believe that, yes, Miami has championship title contending hopes. That the U is back. It's not just Miami, it's the U. Now, after him, what's going to happen? Who knows? But it's not about the after right now. I'm focusing on the right now. What comes after is going to be Miami going to have to do a lot more recruiting, but they've done a great job in recruiting thus far, and they will get some guys that go to that school. This season was good enough, and Mario Cristobal is a good enough recruit. He can get some guys. Miami is in position right now to be a national championship contending team. They have that energy. They have that lifeblood in them. And it all stems from Cameron Ward being that quarterback. He will not let them go quietly. He will fight to the bitter end. That Duke team stuck with them for a while there, and they put up points. But Miami did something even spectacular. They put up more points. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this knowing that there's going to be a lot of pushback on this, so be ready, folks. They feel like 2019 LSU. They feel like that team where there will be occasions where they're going to give up points. They're going to have occasions where they give up points, but because of a quarterback that seems to will them to victories, a wide receiver who I think at this point you have to put in the discussion for one of the top receivers coming out of college next year, and Xavier Restrepo, and the fact that he's making the guys around him look better with a solid ground game from a running back who's considerably small but tough in Damian Martinez with, I think it's Thatcher Jr., I think is his name, the backup. They're just putting in work left and right. And it's incredible to watch. I mean, Ward put up 5 touchdowns on the air, 6 in total in this game. He just had another Heisman moment. How do you deny that Miami has national championship opportunities? They do. That's right in front of them. Will they be able to pull it off? This is a difficult road now because of the playoff. But they can win the ACC. They can win it by a well-deserved margin. I like them. I like Miami. I'm not switching teams, but goddamn, if I got to root for somebody that's not LSU in the college football playoff, I may start rooting for Miami. I like Cam Ward a lot. I think he's going to be a good pro, I think he's been an outstanding college player. I do think he has a right to put his name in for the Heisman. Ginty should probably win it. I think Ward should probably be third, if any, maybe even second on that list. If he does win it, controversial, yes. But I think you can look at his numbers by the end of the year and say probably still well-deserved. But outside of that, we got to get to the downright disgusting. Because two teams right now have lost, and they are hanging on by threads. Texas A&M, blown out by South Carolina. Clemson, blown out by Louisville. Both teams absolutely looked like garbage. They look like garbage. There's no other way to put it. They looked like they were poorly coached. They had poorly managed situations. Their defenses completely fell apart. For teams that are supposed to be boasting 5-star, 4-star, top recruits, top talent in the country, future NFL draft picks, they looked like trash. Texas A&M thinks they've solved their quarterback situation. They don't know who their quarterback is anymore. They want to be a run-the-football kind of a team, and yet they can't establish the run. Their offensive line, for some reason, apparently could not stop South Carolina's Dylan Stewart or Turner on the other end. And meanwhile, on the other side of it, Scorton, Turner, Stewart, all those great edge rushers they have on that defensive line in that system on defense for A&M, they weren't getting anything done. Sellers, who is a freshman, he's a 6'3", 240-pound freshman. He's like the size of Tim Tebow. And in a lot of ways, he's a better version of Tim Tebow. The kid lit it up this past weekend. Scored in the air, scored on the ground, over 100 yards rushing. He was everywhere. South Carolina is going to be a dangerous team if he finally puts it all together and can get some more wide receivers that'll keep him competent. That's going to be incredible to watch. He's a freshman. Stewart's a freshman. Hey, they've got the two pillars of their team right now going. Texas A&M, what do they have? Elko's done a good job. And it doesn't mean that A&M still can't be a force for the rest of the SEC. But this was a big blow for them. This now puts their championship hopes hanging on by a thread. And the same goes with Clemson. They are hanging by their pinkies for that chance. Louisville is not that great a team, and it showed. Tyler Show did not play that great a game. But you let a freshman running back and Isaac Brown run all over you in that game, being Clemson, right? That kid is 5'9", 190, 5'10", 190 pounds, and he ran roughshod over everyone. That was unbelievable to watch. Phil Maffa is a power back of epic proportions. He had a great game. You couldn't ride that at all. Nope, we got to get Klubnik into the game. We got to let him. He was costly. Bad throws, bad plays, turnovers. It was a terrible showing for Clemson. Elko, you're fine because it's your first year. We're not going to fault you for it. A&M's supposed to go through this up and down period, right? It's almost expected. No one was expecting him to take them to the national championship. It was a surprise they were even this good to this point. What is shocking, though, is Dabo Swinney's inability to adjust to the new way of the college football world, and now he is seeing the wrong type of wave being ridden. It's no longer up and down. It's the wave that comes crashing down. This is where you start to lose recruits. This is where you start to lose guys to the transfer portal because you don't want to pay them the NIL. You want to go based off of merit. You want to do things the old-fashioned way. And now guys are going to start saying, yeah, and now we're losing. How do you fix these things? Elko can fix it by simply saying, I had a good season. I can get some guys in here through the transfer portal, and I can get guys in here through the means of recruiting, right? He's going to have the time to do that and the resources to do that too. Dabo's going to get that as well because Clemson's not going to get rid of him unless he says he wants to go. But if this season falls farther and farther away from Dabo Swinney, there could come a point farther down the line if he doesn't start to recoup and put Clemson back in the national title contention that the Tigers all of a sudden are starting to look at Dabo Swinney and go, maybe your time is past you. Are you firing me? No, we don't want to fire you, but maybe you might want to consider retirement. Just a thought. That's what it's going to come down to. this isn't the end of the world. It's only their second loss for A&M, and it's the third loss for Clemson. They'll be okay. They'll be fine. But they need to do something quickly to right the ship. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a whole heap of trouble. You got to make a bowl game, and then you got to win that bowl game so you can prove confidence to the fan bases, to the board of directors, to your coaching staff, and to your players that we are going in the right direction. You don't want to lose anybody on those teams, but you will if you don't start showing your ability to win and win soon. Food for thought for all the fans out there. Progress must be made in order to sustain a level of dominance and success over everyone else. It's not going to happen unless they make these shifts very quickly. What shifts are those? Heck if I know. A&M, it's really simple for me, though, I think. But if I'm going to guess, simple. A&M, find a quarterback, stick with the guy. Clemson, revamp the defense. Start starting guys that you feel are going to be worthy players. Not saying those guys aren't worthy players, of course, by any means, but you need to start finding guys that'll step up and start making plays. They're not doing that. It's a lot more complicated, yes, but those are the more simplified versions of how do you solve issues. Those are two ways to do it, I think, at least. That's going to do it, though, for the college football talk there, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, let us know, what do you think about the college football situation? Let us know on all of these thoughts, plus more. We want to hear from you guys. As always, hit us up on the social media, at the email, and, of course, right here on the stream as well. And when we come back here, folks, we're going to run through it really quickly. It is going to be time for the Pick Six. That's coming next here on the X-Bomb Sports Live Show.
Man, I'm so hungry. I need somewhere to eat fast. I have no idea where to go.
Psst. Hola, me llamo El Taco de Taco. You know where to go for the amazing taste that I have you craving more? Taco Bell.
All right, can I get 20 tacos, please?
You got it.
Thanks, Taco.
De nada.
Good. That's it. Eat the tacos.
Taco Bell. Live más.
Wear your best attitude. Feel the power. Run towards your goals. Make each footprint count. Believe in yourself. Mark the difference. Just do it.
Celsius, the fastest growing energy drink in America. 0 sugar, low calories, and 200 milligrams of caffeine. Celsius is the ideal drink for anyone who wants to get the most out of their day. With 4 distinct flavors: orange, kiwi guava, wild berry, white peach. Drinking Celsius prior to fitness activities has proven to accelerate your metabolism, burn body fat, and provide essential energy. Celsius. Live fit. The official drink of Chad Podcast.
And welcome back, everybody, here to the X-Bomb Sports Live Show. I'm still Andrew Valentin. We're about to end this one out, ladies and gentlemen. We just got done talking about the NFL and, of course, college football. And we're going to finish this one off. We're going to talk about it. It is the Pick Six, ladies and gentlemen. As always, these are the top 6 games of the week. College, pros, you name it, we got it for football. We are doing it. So without further ado, ladies and gents, this week's Pick Six, here we go. We are kicking this one off with number 2, Georgia, taking on number 16, Ole Miss Rebels. Georgia favored by 2.5. The over-under is at 54.5 on the year. As it stands right now, Georgia probably will be favored. I would take the Bulldogs on this one. Ole Miss has just been very inconsistent Would not be surprised, though, if Ole Miss was able to still find a way to possibly upset them, of course. Their offense is very, very good. But their one-read option, Jackson Dart, impressive, but not the most impressive guy in the world by any means. Probably will get drafted in the NFL, but not exactly a first-round pick quarterback, I would say, to this point. I would say it was Georgia. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs on this. I'm going to say Georgia. I'll give them at least like a 10-point favor just because I think that defense is good, and I don't know where Ole Miss's offense is at. And I would say I think this does hit the over because Ole Miss will score their points. They will score a few points here and there. But I think it'll be the same thing we kind of saw with Georgia, Florida, right? A 34-20 kind of range. Georgia's able to put up some points. The hope, though, is Carson Beck has to be better. Has to be better. Because this is not a team you can take very lightly. So I will say Georgia by 10, and I will say it hits the over on the 54.5 on that one. All right, next, we've got number 19, the Clemson Tigers. They are taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies in Virginia Tech. This is in Blacksburg. Clemson's favored by almost a full touchdown at 6.5. The over-under's at 53.5. Look, Clemson coming off of this big loss against Louisville. We just talked about it. They need to figure out their situation, I think, more so on defense than they really do offensively. Although they do have to find, I think, a number one wide receiver to use with Klubnik's ability to throw the football. So I get it. I understand that the Tigers right now, they're trying to find their identity maybe a little bit more still. I like the idea of Virginia maybe going in here and trying to upset, and I will say I think Virginia can upset Clemson in this game. So I will take Virginia on this one. I will say Virginia by 4, and I will say I think this game hits the under. I don't have much confidence anymore right now in Clemson. After what we saw against Louisville, there's not a lot of confidence there. Virginia, nevertheless, I don't really know where they're at as far as being one of the best teams in college football, but I know that they've had a somewhat halfway decent season for the most part. But they have their own issues as well. But I think they have just enough to be able to stay competitive with Clemson, keep it close. And if anything, the Tigers have enough ability to shoot themselves in the foot, and the Hokies can take over and get the win. So I'll say Virginia Tech upsets by 4, and I'll say this one hits the under on that game. Next, we've got number 21, Colorado. They're going in and playing Texas Tech University. This is in Lubbock. Colorado's only favored by 3. These are two teams that are offensively driven. The over-under's at 62.5. It's the highest rated game right now as far as over-under goes. I will go with Colorado, but very reluctantly. I will say it's by a point. A&M, Texas Tech did get the big upset over Iowa State last week. They could do it again. They could be spoilers one more time. Taj Brooks is a really good running back. He takes time off the clock. He's an incredible running back. Do not be shocked by his ability to go in and take over a game if necessary. I will like Colorado for this game, though. I will say Colorado, but I'll give them a 1.5 on this. So about cut it in half from 3 to a 1.5. I think this game, though, goes to the over, too. I think it's a shootout. Texas Tech has done a really good job of being able to put up points on the run game as well as the pass. Colorado, of course, you know what Shedeur Sanders can do, but I like Colorado in this one. Sure, the over, absolutely. Next game, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Oh, baby. This is a big one. The upsetters of the SEC, right? South Carolina coming up big against A&M. Vanderbilt beat Bama. They are 6-3 now, ranked in the country at number 24. South Carolina is favored going into Vanderbilt, into Nashville by 3.5. The over-under in this game is very low at 46.5 points right now. I am going to go with the upset on this to Vanderbilt because Diego Pavia, I believe, is a better quarterback than what we saw even last week. Where, yes, he got outplayed by Auburn's Peyton Thorne, but he made enough plays to keep Vanderbilt in the fight, and that's what's most important. So I like Vanderbilt in this game. South Carolina has all the ability in the world, of course, to take over and drop a big one on them. Of course, we saw that with Texas A&M. But I think Vanderbilt has the ability to go in to this game at home, momentum on their side, with a national ranking at hand against South Carolina and do some damage. This is probably going to be a very good game to watch, I believe. Be a must-watch for sure. Sorry, I'm getting all flustered here from this. So I'm going to say Vanderbilt. I'm going to say Vanderbilt by 5. I will say this game just hits the over. Not goes too much over, but just hits the over. Actually, you know what? Let's go way over. Let's say this is going to be a high-scoring game. Screw it. Let's go as high as we can on this one. I'm enthralled with it. And last of the college football games, we've got number 11 Alabama against number 14 LSU. My LSU Tigers are taking on Alabama in Death Valley, night game. I hope and pray that LSU can come out of this with a win. Bama's favored by 2.5. Over-under's at 59.5. I'm going to go with LSU for the upset again. Let's see if they can do it. It's a good team. It's a Bama team that's having a lot of rough starts onto themselves right now. I think this LSU team is at least on par, somewhere to the same level as what Vanderbilt is with a better quarterback. Sorry, nothing against Diego Pavia, but for what I've seen from Garrett Nussmeier, this guy might be able to actually be a first-round pick in the NFL, perhaps. But Jalen Milroe will be too. Don't get me wrong. This is going to be a battle of quarterbacks. This is going to be a battle of who has the better defense. This is also going to be a battle of who has a better run game as well. I know it sounds very simple, but those are going to be those key factors, right? DBs for both teams, running backs, and quarterbacks are going to be the big main points of these teams to play going forward. I like LSU. I give them a touchdown favor because it's a night game in Death Valley. I'll say this game hits just at the under. Just at the under. Don't think it's going to be that big of a blowout, but it will be a big game nevertheless. And last but not least, it's the only NFL game I found last week worth watching and worth putting anything on and worth anything to do with. Pittsburgh is at Washington. Steelers, 6-2, taking on the Washington Commanders. They're also 6-2. Best young quarterback in the game, Jaden Daniels. Russell Wilson having a resurgence of a year. Best defense maybe in the NFL. One of the best offenses in the NFL. I'm going to be really impressed to see this. Washington is favored at home by 2.5. I will say I would cut that down to maybe about a point. So just 1 point. But Washington, I would still give the favor to. They've been very good at home. They've been very good all year long. Pittsburgh, however, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to make a lot of mistakes in this game, but I just think Jaden Daniels will have the ball at the end of the game to win it. So give it a point. Washington takes the win. The over-under's at 44.5. I may take the over on this. This might be a higher scoring game than we want to give credit to. Everything is in place for Washington to be able to have a very good season. Same thing for Pittsburgh. It's all going to depend now on who's healthy, who's playing, and how this one shifts out, I think, in the last 2 minutes of the game. So, yeah, Washington by a point, and I will take the over on this as well. And that's going to do it for the Pick Six, ladies and gentlemen, and that's going to do it for our show. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you guys, as always. It means a lot to us. It means the world to us. You guys are the most amazing fans in the world. Thank you guys, too, for the feedback as well on the Friday stuff. I thank you guys as well. I know we were supposed to do it kind of in the morning. Still trying to figure out exactly what time would be good for that. Maybe it'll still be mornings. We'll see. Shorter show, quicker talk, doing the answering your questions and stuff. We'll get to that stuff again as well. But thank you guys all so much for that stuff. Again, you want to follow the show, YouTube and Twitch, follow us, like us, get on the page, subscribe. That's youtube.com/xbombsports, twitch.tv/xbombsports. You can find us on the social media side, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at xbombsports for all three. And, of course, hit us up on the email at xbsportsofficial@gmail.com as well. If you want to follow myself, I'm at TheFuffyGuru on Twitter. I'm at Boom Crew Captain on Instagram as well. If you guys want to follow me there, I believe I'm also Boom Crew Captain on Snapchat as well. I'm been posting more there too. If you want to follow more of my individual stuff, that's where you can find me. Other than that, check us out, Blow the Whistle. I think the boys are actually going right now, so after this, I'm going to be jumping in with them to be able to talk some more sports with them and good stuff. Other than that, too, find us on Fridays for the Short Fuse Fridays. Aftershock is still being talked about. Other than that, too, Bad Karma Wrestling every Friday. Find them, 11:30. The boys are going live. David Dykstra, Nick Johnston, talking everything in the wrestling world. They had another great show this weekend. I was very proud of them. They did some great stuff because there's a lot of good news, ladies and gents. A lot of good news. So with that all being said, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. You guys are incredible. And as always, much love. Peace out, Boom Crew.